Hi everyone, my name is Angela, this is Paperbacks Galore, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in February. So in 2024, I'm trying to reduce the number of books on my physical TBR, so I'm going to start with a stat about my TBR shelf reduction. I'm using this graphic made by someone on Instagram called Laura's Learning Library, so if you want a similar graphic, go check out her stories. So I started off the year with 100 physical unread books, which is such a satisfying number to start off with. And in February, I read 4. I added 0 books to my TBR, I unloaded 0 books, and so my new total is 94 books, which is pretty good. The first book I read in February was Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I did a vlog on my channel where I read 2 Black classics on my shelves to start off Black History Month, and this was excellent. Essentially, we have a sci-fi story where a modern Black woman in the 1970s is thrust back into 1800s America in the South on a plantation, and she has to figure out how to survive and just survive. I would highly recommend this book. It is pretty heavy, so make sure that you check trigger warnings and content warnings and make sure you're in a good headspace, but this is such an incredible and accessible classic if you're someone who has been wanting to read classics but you really don't like the stuffy, old, boring British classics that you can't relate to. I think this would be a really great place to start. I gave Kindred 4.5 stars. Next up, I read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and this is essentially a tragic love story between 2 men in Paris. One of them is an American man and the other one is Italian, so they're both like expats living in Paris, I believe in the 50s, yeah. And you really don't need to know much more than that. The only thing that stopped this from being a higher rating for me was I felt like their connection was kind of skipped over. There was a period of time where they were spending a lot of time together that was just told to us that it happened instead of showing us, and so I felt less about these characters than I think I was supposed to, and in such a short, like, character-driven novel, that really stopped me from like absolutely loving it. But the writing was beautiful. There were so many times when I was underlining things and just amazed by the sentences that James Baldwin crafted, so I'm excited to read more James Baldwin, and I would also highly recommend this as a classic. Next up, I read An Impossible Imposter by Deanna Raybourn. This is book 7 in the Veronica Speedwell series, which is a historical mystery series set in Victorian England with a really fun slow burn romance. Lots of banter. Our 2 main characters are scientists, like natural scientists, and it's just a really delightful series. In this book, Veronica and Stoker are tasked with figuring out if this young man is an imposter or if he's actually the family member who has been presumed dead for many years. And they go to this estate out in the countryside and try to solve this mystery. I really liked this one. I thought the mystery elements were even more compelling than over the last couple of books, which were a little disappointing for me, so I gave this one 4 stars, and the ending of this one, I need to read the next book really soon because the ending of this one was a lot more intriguing than the usual endings. Next up, I read A Tempest of Tea by Hafsah Faizal. I have a standalone review for this book on my channel, so if you're thinking about buying this one or picking it up and you want to see some in-depth but non-spoilery thoughts, check out my review. Essentially, I was really excited for this one. Something that I love about YA books is how creative and fun and interesting the premises are, and unfortunately this one was a bit of a disappointment for me. I also think there's an element of me just like not loving heist books. So essentially we have a fictional England in which a young woman has a tea house that by night is a blood bank Vampires can drink blood at night in this tea room. Wow, I'm not explaining this very well. It's also a story of revenge and a heist and this group of ragtag outcasts coming together to infiltrate this underground elite vampire society. And all of that sounds really good, right? Like that sounds amazing. But unfortunately, I was really bored for most of this book. And that was my main problem with it. I did think that the ending was really good. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. But if you want more of my thoughts, please watch my review. Next up, I read The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. This is a mixed media mystery novel, which is basically centering this true crime writer who wants to write about this case of this cult in which 2 teenagers almost sacrificed their baby as a part of a satanic ritual. And the baby in this case survived and is now around the age of 18, and she really wants to find this baby, and she wants the crux of this book to be about the baby's experience and from that angle. There's lots of different types of documents and recordings of conversations and text messages and emails, so it's really fun to sift through all these materials. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I don't think the ending packed a punch in a way that I need one to in order for me to give a mystery book 5 stars. So highly recommend, but it's not my personal favorite book that I've ever read. Next up, we have a new favorite book, the only 5-star of the month for me, and that is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. How can I make this book sound as good as it is? This is a second chance romance novel about 2 divorced parents who are now co-parenting their children in Atlanta, and they're also co-running a restaurant in Atlanta, and it takes place in this kind of cool, wealthy, kind of trendy neighborhood called Skyland in Atlanta. I don't actually know if it's a real neighborhood now that I say this out loud, but it's just such a fun setting to be in, even though a lot of this book is pretty heavy. Yasmin and Josiah both have perspectives in this novel, so you go back and forth, and they as a couple experienced something really heartbreaking and tragic, which eventually caused the end of their marriage, and now a few years later things seem to be shifting and changing a bit in their relationship. I cannot express how much I loved the writing, just the sentences that she crafted, some of which were beautiful and emotional, some of which were witty and funny. I love the friend group in here. Kennedy Ryan actually has another book coming out, like literally this month. Actually, it might be coming out tomorrow at the time that I'm filming this, which follows one of Yasmin's friends in her friend group. And we also meet her kids and learn about her kids, and I usually don't really care about children in books, but I really enjoyed the parental relationship with their kids. It was just, please read this book. Do check the content warnings, because there are some subjects in here that I would imagine would be very, very difficult for some people to read, but it is a romance, so it does have overall a hopeful and joyful tone, but there are some really sad things that happened, and I loved it so much. 5 stars, my favorite book of the month. And the last book that I finished in February is Pride and Premeditation by Tirzah Price. I did not remember the author's name in time for that to go smoothly. But this is a YA mystery retelling of Pride and Prejudice, in which our main character, Lizzie, is the son of a lawyer, and she really wants to prove herself to her father that she can handle a case, and she is mature enough and educated enough to have a chance to work at his law firm. The author does include an author's note in the back where she talks about how she kind of flouts some historical truths in this book in order to make it more fun. So if you are a real history buff and you hate when authors kind of bend facts in historical time periods, this one might drive you a little crazy. But for me, I thought it was really fun. What did I give this book? I think if you are a Pride and Prejudice fan and you also like mysteries, you should go into this one and like don't look up the full synopsis, because I think it's fun to be surprised with how the author incorporates the Pride and Prejudice elements into the mystery. I'm not even going to tell you like what kind of situation it is, because it's just so fun. I didn't know what was going on at first, and it was fun to slowly find out which characters were doing what in this kind of alternate universe. So I ended up giving this 3.75 stars. It was fun, not quite a 4-star, but a really solid, fun, easy book that I would highly recommend if you need something light and entertaining. Thank you so much for watching my February wrap-up. I am hoping that these wrap-ups are going to get longer and longer as the year goes by and I graduate from grad school and I have more time to read and more books to talk about and review. But I'm just having so much fun making these videos and reading. Let me know what books you want to read in March, and I hope you have a lovely week. Bye!